of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS, explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com.
Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent.
Every journey begins with a simple act of care. For Quest to Unite Africa, that journey started with something simple: a mother, a newborn, and a promise that no life would be forgotten. We did not begin with buildings, we began with people. We packed mother newborn kits with our own hands because real change starts where the need is greatest. Those kids traveled farther than we imagined, and they opened our eyes to a deeper truth. Aid saves lives, but infrastructure saves generations. So we grew. Together with donors, volunteers, and partners, we sent a medical container to Burkina Faso. Not just supplies, but hope. Not just boxes, but proof that when a community comes together, healing moves across borders. That moment changed us because we realized something powerful. We weren't just delivering help, we were building a future. Now the journey continues. The next chapter is bigger than a shipment, bigger than a campaign. We are raising funds to build a state-of-the-art hospital, a place where mothers can give birth safely, where families can find care close to home, and where communities can grow stronger for generations to come. This hospital is not just a structure, it's a promise. A promise that healthcare will no longer be temporary. A promise that dignity will have a permanent home. And just like every step before, we cannot do this alone. Every gift, every brick, every name placed on the founder path becomes part of a story that began with compassion and is growing into legacy. It helps us move from emergency aid to lasting healing, from containers to care that never leaves, from vision to reality. Join us, stand with us, help us build a hospital that will serve generations, moving healthcare into action. Visit q2ua.org today.
All right. Shalom, salama, yemi, shalom. Greetings to all my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether you're of the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or you're a Gentile grafted in to the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning. I like to make sure that this is a collaborative, safe space for all the believers of Yahusha. But I am going to be truthful about certain matters because, again, we have to operate in all truths. If you didn't know how this world operates, especially how this nation has operated, it's the semblance of righteousness, right? Holiness, but that was never really the case. And I think our people have started to understand what we've been stating this whole time. Because again, we have been here for a little bit of time, the greater part of this decade now, for most of us, and beyond. And now we're seeing that as we have awakened, as we had stated, because we didn't state this, the Most High stated it. The Most High had already declared the end from the beginning. So what we're doing is we're living in the moments of his declaration because his declaration is the only thing that matters. The declaration is the only thing that's the say so, right? That's what the judge says. Hey, this is that, that's this. Now, the righteous judge, Yahuwah, has already given his judgments. And I want to, because of the sake of time, this had come up in one of the articles. I want to put this here. Again, this is this year. And we were able to see something like this earlier a couple months ago, and it's now rearing its head. And I want to really hone in on this morning because the fog of confusion, yeah, you have confusion here in the civilian population. A lot of our people are just like, oh, it doesn't really matter. It's this, it's that. We're having swings, the ups and the downs in oil. Gas is one price. Diesel is going crazy. CEOs are talking about what to expect because again, look, the end, what did the Most High say? Look, the end is in 1 hour. It's all of a sudden. It's an impact. Next thing that people will do, look, I'm telling you, you have a federal emergency plan, and now the states are getting ready to enact their state emergency plan. Hey, in the event that this thing collapses, you saw that the other day, I would say a couple years ago, with New Hampshire and how they had the plan, they constitutionally approved their plan that anything over 40 trillion USD, that triggers a succession from the United States government. Why? Because they did not want to partake in basically a bankrupted system. And what we're seeing a bankrupted system. Everybody's going to get theirs, right? Everybody's going to get theirs. As we're explaining the dynamics of finance and economy, because again, for a lot of us, we weren't really classically trained in what does that mean in the macroeconomic sense? What does that mean in the microeconomic sense? One of my hardest courses in college, and I failed it 2 times. You can see my transcripts. I failed it 2 times. Was economics. And now I love economics. Now I understand. I understand the values of currency, the EACs, the estimated actual cost, the basis of estimates, all of these different things that provide nuances. But one of the things that I do have to say, look, our job is to report, observe and report. Because why? Because we're observing and then we're witnessing. Because why? Because we are carrying a testimony to the generations that follow. I'm not on out here. Look, when people say, well, what do you do? Is your content full of hate speech? No, it actually isn't. My content is actually full of observations. You can interpret it however you want to interpret it, but those are the observations. Yeah, Uncle Asaph, that those economics, that was almost 15 years ago, way before my awakening. Actually, almost 20 years ago. So the struggle has been real, and it's been real because we just hadn't been taught. And, for quite a while, I'm going to tell you this, life was actually not taught to us. We were just indoctrinated in their system. There's a difference between being taught and there's a difference between being indoctrinated. There are certain things that I don't do in the classroom. I don't believe in the indoctrination. They can do it in the other classrooms. If I get complaints, I get complaints, whatever. Moment of silence. That's it. Hey, we respected the moment of silence. But don't you respect the flag? I'm going to tell you this. Maybe 5, 10 years ago, yeah. Yeah, there was a toleration. I mean, there wasn't really respect, but there was a toleration. Now it's like, well, look, the lies that are there are now everywhere. You can't hide it. They can't hide it. Well, that's just how it is. No, that's not how it is. And now, because they chose not to hide it, now they're choosing an economic pain point. And that pain point is, oh, we're in the hottest economy ever. No, the economy's cooking up because, again, as I had stated yesterday, they're pulling their numbers together. And surprise, surprise, when you look at all these economists, when you look at all these, financial analysts, well, the blah, 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 blah. You know why they do all that nonsense, right? It's because they still want you and I to be confused about the matter. Speak plainly. I pray that what the Most High has allowed me to do in my walk has been able to speak plainly to our people. That's all. That was the only thing I was working towards. Are you able to understand, to follow, to see what's being said? Can I illustrate what I'm trying to show? I saw that, brother Exam. He said, "Did you see even in AI, the companies are in chaos too?" Anthropic's CEO says his employees are a bunch of treacherous and disloyal rats. Well, who would want to who would want to work for that CEO? I'm just saying. If you have to now understand, they're getting ready for their social dysplasia, for lack of better words. But I'm an employee of Anthropic. I didn't know that that's what you thought about me. Then what do I think about my job security? Are all the rumors true? I thought the rumors weren't true, but now that you said something, now the rumors are true because you done validated the rumor. Do you see how this goes? The pride of thine heart has deceived them. It's vanity. And that's why I say at the root cause of this vanity is it shows in different formats. With us, we see vanity in the form of white supremacy. With them, they see vanity in the forms of classism. Everybody still deals with it. The level of intensity obviously changes because they're not going to obviously suppress their own like that, at least not in a very overt manner, because again, that is their quote unquote people. For us, no, that will then be at the most extreme, harshest conditions because again, the natural hate that's there because of the spiritual conditions that are present, well, everything is done at an extreme. And if you don't know that everything is going to be done at an extreme, then all I can do is pray for you. May the Most High help you on out when you get that wake up moment. And, 2 years ago, this message would have been, oh, this is so crazy. It's so this, it's so that 2 years ago. But guess what? The messages here, especially on this channel, was not to hate on a particular group of people, to hate on this, to hate. It wasn't really about hate. See, when you're telling the truth, then people are going to say you're hating them, you're hating their being, you're hating every. No, it's not. It's actually being able to warn you so you don't fall in the pit. The problem is they don't fall in the pit. They all did. And I laugh because even when you get a lot of the Iranian interactions, people of America, people of America, it is not you that we hate, it is your leader, people of America. That is my best Iranian voice. But then the problem is that they're trying to placate to a people that does not like them. Now, I understand the whatever this next period of guidance that they're trying to have. Black Americans, African Americans, we understand your struggles. Okay, that's fine. I get it. But the reality is, what does that even mean to us? Cool, you understand our struggles. All right. That's a very shallow statement. Yeah, you all are getting treated just like us. Appalling. But Trump said that he was going to liberate, and now I'm confused. Hmm. You fell for the okey doke. Well, I probably have a couple of ancestors, down that way. You know what? They probably had felt the same way that you're feeling. I'm just a couple generations removed, and we know a little bit better here. And now you're trying to zero in on us to have some support and solidarity. No, we're just gonna see y'all duke it out. I'm sorry, that's me. I'm not getting involved in this fight. I'm just gonna grab some popcorn and see how this thing all unfolds. These semantics, at the end of the day, whatever has been going on, it has affected the morale of the troops. And I want to share this story. I think I posted this earlier. Let me get this here. Because I want you all to understand this because there's different things that are happening right now as we speak that we didn't think was actually going to be happening. I mean, we knew it was going to happen, but the mechanics, of course, that's all the most high. Here we go from the independent.u or from the independent UK. Sailors on USS Lincoln outside Iran are exhausted and suffering from poor morale on ship, families warm. Apparently, the ship's doctor or therapist said they need to hit port soon or people are going to start, losing their minds, says Bonnie York, whose stepson serves on the carrier. From a Bruce Golding, Thursday, August 6th. So that's us as of today. I think that's British Standard Time. Morale is plummeting on an American aircraft carrier that's running short of food and other supplies, and its exhausted crew wages President Donald Trump's war against Iran. Worried family members say sailors and Marines serving on the USS Abraham Lincoln have told relatives about being served a half a cup of rice and 2 tortillas for a meal, said the ship's store often lack soap, deodorant, and toothpaste, Emerson now reported Wednesday. So this is now hitting mainstream news. And you have to understand if they're reporting this, they have to then try to get the jump on things. This is how this works. This is information warfare, especially if the morale is not in line with what the president has said. Everybody in the military says no, because again, you cannot openly interview people in the military because they know that if you openly interview people in the military, then that is going to be a UCMJ offense, a Uniformed Court of Military Justice offense. That what you say, if it's not aligned to the mission, that is going to be dissension, derision, you name it. It will be an Article 15. It just is a general article that you messed up. Let me go into this article. Crew members are also worn out by working long, grueling shifts, with some rarely getting a day off, and described broken toilets, moldy showers, without hot water and no laundry services for weeks at a time. Oh boy. I want to share this. So you now had MS now report that. You now had Independent report that. This is from Raw Story, a little less known. But again, they all feed off of each other. Ripe for accidents, families fume at Trump as ship doctor warned sailors may go insane. And we said that. This is something that I've already stated. Really, I've already stated. Now you're just starting to see how things are catching up. Families of sailors and Marine aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln are raising urgent concerns about deteriorating conditions on the aircraft, which has now spent 9 months at sea and 5 consecutive months in combat operations. That's crazy. They haven't even look. There's no port calls. There's nothing, and the reason that that's happening is simply this: these countries are afraid to have them dock. They're afraid to have them cleared for docking because, again, if they don't know who's there in that office that's feeding information over to Iran. They can strike Jebel Ali. They can strike Fujara. They can strike Manama, Bahrain. I forgot what Oman's port is. They definitely ain't going to Yemen. And they ain't definitely ain't going to nowhere over in Africa. So essentially, they're stuck having to have non-standard maritime operators go through to supply the ship. And there's only so much that you can do with those supply ships. There's only so much. They can only hold and load so much. Because again, those supply ships are doing the same thing, trying to get supplies because there's a disruption in the logistics channel. You're not just going to fly on cargo ships on an aircraft carrier. That doesn't happen. And let me tell you that funk, there is morale in destroyers in a lack of hygiene. And that's not just destroyers and a lack of hygiene. The lack of hygiene can actually get you sick. That becomes an issue because again, it's more mental. That mental warfare is now coming due. The crew of more than 5,000 personnel is facing moldy showers, food shortages, and a severe lack of basic supplies. And we went over that. Reported by MSN Now. Now, I wanted to really give a highlight to this because I want to share this. This is from an oldie but goodie. Jeremiah chapter 50. I'm going to start here at verse. At verse 28. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon to declare in Zion the vengeance of Yahuwah our Elohim, the vengeance of his temple. I wonder if this is our brothers and sisters that have gone over to the continent and have stated amongst the people there on the continent what the Most High is getting ready to do. I'm telling you, I wonder if our pesky Negroes, if our pesky brothers and sisters had gone on over and said, hey, Yahuwah's about to do a great work on the land. Huh? What? Yahuwah's about to do his thing. Now, if you hadn't noticed, North Korea, China, and China have been testing weapons this week. China has been purported to test its nuclear capable hypersonic glide missile. The first time ever. Iran had purportedly enhanced some of its missile capabilities on that aspect with missiles and drones with their testing and their declaration of their super weapons. So these nations they're gearing up. And there was something I wanted to show here. There was, I thought I had that article. I thought I had provided that article. Let me see if I could find it. Hopefully, I could find it. Yep, I can. Perfect. Here we go. I'll just come here to NDTV. I want to put this on out here so you all can see, because if it wasn't the truth, then it wouldn't be reactive. And you have to understand, America's very reactionary. And really, there's not, as folks will try to say, oh, you got to be proactive. People have to be proactive. Yeah, I get it, but that's actually not in the nature of this country. Everything is always a reactive. Everything is always up. We're off balanced. We're on an interesting footing. And then they have to come back, because then it's really the patriotism of, honestly, black folks. Oh yeah, we gotta get along. We gotta do this. We got to. That's why, to me, I always look at it like, there's going to probably be some sort of a false flag coming in a couple of months. And I would actually honest, probably a false flag coming in a couple of weeks, because I want to show this. U.S. plans new nuclear strategy in case of war with China or Russia report. Instead of depending mainly on long-range nuclear missiles, the new approach would place greater focus on shorter-range tactical nuclear weapons that could be used in regional conflicts involving U.S. allies. Basically, they're going to grab the nukes. Edited by Anushri Janko as of today, India Standard Time. The Pentagon is working on a major overhaul of the U.S.'s nuclear strategy, with plans that would reshape how the U.S. responds if a conflict breaks out with Russia or China, according to a report by NBC. Instead of depending mainly on long-range nuclear missiles, the new approach would place greater focus on shorter-range tactical nuclear weapons that could be used in regional conflicts involving U.S. allies. Well, I'm going to tell you this. That should not make anyone safer, because, again, if there is a conflict, which there is, it is called Taiwan. Taiwan is in a conflict. If and what they're doing is they're showing China, because they're starting to get into a favorable season, a land invasion season that is around late September, October timeframe. That's basically the weapons. I I'm seeing the same article that you're seeing. Why is that? Because they know that they don't have the this to me is the admission. This is the admission. They do not have the capabilities that they once had. If they're now, look, I've heard the arguments of, well, it could just be, mindful of war and things of that nature. No, sometimes in the military, especially understanding, for those that have served, I have served. I have retired. Sometimes you actually have to tell people the truth because if not, then somebody's going to blow the whistle. Remember what Trump said? Oh, yeah, I hate whistleblowers. I hate this. Because again, if you're not holding it, nobody's holding anybody accountable. If you're not holding anybody accountable, then guess what? They're going to do everything they want and it's going to go off the rails. Have you seen that everything has gone off the rails? You have a stock market that's majorly manipulated. That's going to crash. Remember how the stock market crashed in 2020 after we were like, yeah, it's major manipulation. America isn't even manufacturing anything. And then it crashed. And then they had to have emergency funding to print more money to put that back into the stock market. That's all that's been. This government, don't believe me, now a massive amount of stock that they bought and purchased through Intel. But we don't believe in capitalism or socialism. We believe in free markets. No, you don't. Jeremiah 15:29. Call together the archers against Babylon. All ye that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. They're not going to be able to escape. It's going to be, in my opinion, the pincer move. The West Coast and the East Coast. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she hath done, do unto her, for she hath been proud against Yahuwah, the Holy One of Yasharel. I would like to restate that, for she hath utilized white supremacy against the Most High's people and against Yahuwah. Why? Because they've taken and they've used our Elohim's in vain. The image, they try to put an image of him in vain. Name, image, likeness. They did that what? In vain. Do not profane. What have they done? They profaned. For why? Why have they done that? For white supremacy. To control. I pray you all see where I'm going with this. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith Yahuwah. For behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith Yahuwah of hosts. For thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee. So their pride has already done all this. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts. The children of Israel, the children of Judah, the Yahudim were oppressed together. Whether you're on the continent or the diaspora, there it is. For all the FBAs on out there, what they never do. Look, those are our brothers and sisters. Those are our cousins. Those are our families. Children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. And all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. All of a sudden, they don't want us going back to Africa. Let's draw up a new plan of attack. Let's draw up a new COINTELPRO because we need to have access to Africa, not them. Their Redeemer is strong, the Yahuwah of hosts, the our Elohim of hosts, Yahuwah. He shall thoroughly plead their cause that he may give rest to the land and disquiet, keyword, and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. So Africa is becoming at rest. At the same time, the inhabitants of Babylon are no longer being, they're no longer still. They're now antsy. I'm bothered. I'm hot. We got to do something. I'm speaking out against the military. My son, my daughter, they're serving. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith Yahuwah, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. Gee, boy, oh boy. Remember, look, Iran said they're not playing. They already told you what their intent was. Look, decapitation, they can say that all as much as they want. But honestly, you have to realize when people are fearful, they're going to say and do all the crazy, and that's what we're seeing here in the United States. Oh, we got an Iran-Oman deal. Well, no. We got an Iran, Oman, and U.S. deal. Huh? Well, no. You need to include the United States. We need to include who? What? They got beat out by diplomacy. And you now know that when they get beat out by diplomacy, guess what? They're going to strike. It's that simple. We've seen this before. This is CBSNews.com. This is live updates from Duarte Diaz and Mark Osborne. Last updated today, August 6th, at about less than 20 minutes ago. 6:59. Iran and Oman are close to agreeing on new arrangements for the Iran Strait of Hormuz, but not for a full reopening of the vital waterway, Iran's state news agency reported Thursday. President Trump said a lot of progress has been made on the subject. The president is denying recent reports of significant U.S. munition shortages due to the Iran war. But Iran Oman talks nearing deal, but not for full Strait of Hormuz reopening. Iran state news agency says Iran and Oman are nearing a new arrangement. So we just covered that. But what you don't see is there's no U.S. involvement in the strait. The agency said the success of the arrangement would depend on whether other nations in the region would accept, and worldwide, other nations in the region and worldwide accept it. So basically, they're saying more than likely the U.S. is not going to accept it because the U.S. wanted to have and maintain the state of or the control of the Straits of Hormuz through its proxies. And I would say to an extent, yes, the U.S. does control Oman. The U.S. controls all those countries on the Arab Peninsula, Arabian Peninsula, with the exception of Yemen. Yeah, don't get it twisted, with the exception of Yemen. Yemen's like, except what? Except that we don't beat your behind? Those are G's right there. Those are riders right there. Okay? You don't want to go to that corner. You gonna pull up. You don't want to go to that neighborhood. That you don't want to pull up on that block. You know when you get into the area of the city and it's like, oh, that's the area of the city. You know, as soon as you cross the street and you're riding through that area, oh yeah, the atmosphere has changed. The type of stores here have changed on these storefronts. That's Yemen. And yes, Minister Rick, yes, some of the leaders that were there in that area were on that island in the Bahamas. Absolutely, they were. So, so it's the Omanis. It's the Omanis, and I'm gonna say the Omanis. It's like this. It Iran knows that it's basically dealing with the U.S. via proxy of Oman. However, what they're doing is they're literally saying, "Hey, this isn't a full reopening, and we know that we're still going to monitor the strait." So basically, Oman is going to accept it because Oman, they really don't have a choice because again, there's the other countries in the region, i.e., Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, and Bahrain, and Kuwait, that are like, "Hey, you got to make this deal. I don't care what the U.S. says, you got to make this deal." But if I make the deal, the U.S. is going to say that's going to be unacceptable, and then we're under fire. Remember, I don't know if you all realize this. There was about less than 2 or 3. It was like less than 2 months ago. Remember, let me pull this on up. I'm going to try to find this. Trump threatens or threatened Oman. Yeah, let me pull this up. I don't know if it went to a pay portal. I'm just giving you. Look, I told you, I deal in facts. You can get mad. You can come after me. Look, Gentiles, I'm just telling you this. I'm showing you this. Hebrews, I'm explaining this. I just put this into the chat. Yep, and I got hit with the paywall. But it's on out there if you don't get hit with the paywall. The New York Times, that was one. So you could, if I could find another. This this is Guardian. Let me share this. I'm gonna post this into this chat as I'm sharing. Just because I have to give you the veracity of the reporting. Giving you those references. Well, what you're saying is it's not true, really. It's not what. See, again, they hate evidence. This is evidence. They hate what they have stated. They stated this. This article is more than 2 months old. Exactly. That's what I said. It was about 2 months ago. Trump threatens to blow up U.S. ally Oman amid talks over Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so as I was stating, everything I stated was correct. U.S. president calls on U.S. ally to behave or else we'll have to blow them up in casual aside. He wasn't being funny about that. He was actually being dead serious. Trump has threatened to blow up Oman if it fails to behave in a casual aside during a cabinet meeting as the U.S. scrambles to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So, again, why do you think that Iran is always the way that it is in terms of negotiating with Oman? They know that they're negotiating with the United States or someone that has literally a pew pew to their head. Uh, Mustafa, can we get away with this? Mustafa, uh, what about that? When the people of Iran allowed to do this? You're not negotiating. And literally, you're not negotiating in good faith when you just had the same people that blew up the people that they're trying to negotiate via proxy. So now you have two parties. One will get bombed again, and the other one will have their first bombing. Let me know if I'm wrong, if that analogy is wrong. Give me a 1 if that analogy is correct. Give me a 2 if that analogy is wrong. I want to make sure I have the proper feedback. I'm just saying. So again, how can you deal in good faith? Well, look, I'm not going to pay them nothing. If we find out that you're trying to give kickbacks to the U.S., it's over. Look, I would have that thing airtight. The minute a U.S. ship tries to even approach this zone, it's over. We're not going to warn. They're going to have a boundary. They know it'll be geofenced. They'll have 30 minutes to get on out or we're locked in. So now what are the ships doing there? While these high level negotiations are happening, what are our people doing? And I look at our people, our brothers and sisters that are there, our sons and daughters that are there on the ship. Because the ship is different. When my uncle was able to talk, he would tell you, he told me about life on the ship, why he could have gotten to an O5 commander, but he didn't want to do it. It's tough. It's difficult. You're encountering all sorts of racism. And I can only imagine, not everybody in the military has encountered that. Everybody. You only stay depending on the level of your toleration towards racism. That's how that goes. And now I can only imagine that with a Secretary of Defense and now others in that area, that arena, that the racism has probably exponentially increased. More than likely, I'm going to say more than likely. Have you noticed that they don't provide any type of climate surveys? That was one of the first things I was waiting on. September, October, they should be providing climate surveys. They weren't even trying to report on the climate surveys. For all those that have served in the military, you all know what I'm talking about. That's the issue. that occurs. Can I just be a go along to get along? Uh, those go along to get alongs, I think they're realizing that that's not the case. You will be found either hanging or floating. It's awesome to see our people actually understanding the environment and the climate, and they're now training to understand how to operate in this. The go along to get along. And now them folks are getting mad because it's their people that's calling out their own racism and the deadly consequences that happens. And that's a threat because if you are actually saying that they have the problem and it's their group that's saying it, okay. See, we could say it all the day long. It doesn't really matter. If their group saying it, somebody is holding somebody accountable, or at least trying to. And I would say at the very least. Does that accountability really work? No, it doesn't. Accountability has to start at the top, at the very, very top. Because again, I see all the stories. I see the horror stories. There are other channels that can cover all of those stories, trust me. And they go a little bit more in depth. I'm here, I'm covering this segment because I believe that what is happening there is going to quickly come here. Just like when people are saying, oh, that will never happen. That will never happen. You know how many times I heard that from folks? I don't believe that. That will never happen. I'm like, here's the mechanisms. And then as soon as February 28th happened, they all shut up. Well, I mean, I thought, well, I mean, and and you know what's going to happen with him. You know what's going to happen with him. He's going to think that he's going to be cute enough to, go to an area where I'm a good one, and I feel sorry for him because we all know how it's going to end. I really do. That's why I say, look, pray for all of our people. Some people, that they done sold out. They sold their souls and that was it. But again, please pray for our people while they're still here. Because when they are on the other side of the grave, you can't save anybody. We all see that, look, this dude is rushing into destruction. We all see it. No, I got my people. I'm going to go there. I got my homeboys. I got this. Yeah. And when the going gets tough, they're like that Homer Simpson little gif, right? They fade into the bush. They fade into the bushes. And then guess what? I don't know what happened to them. I just left for about 5 minutes. I had to take a phone call. The next thing I know, I don't know what happened. See, you can see I was on the phone. You can see my phone records. I genuinely don't know. And yeah, the more that people see and feel this persecution, see, the persecution has to be the death by the thousand cuts. Oh, that didn't really hurt. That didn't really hurt. That didn't. But the cumulative total of when you are losing blood, you die. Wait, why am I feeling funny? Wait, why is this happening? Why is my head getting woozy? Because it's those death by 1,000 cuts. Well, I have a good paying job. I haven't been fired yet. Then all of a sudden, when they do get fired, well, it's not fair. The system's not fair. The other day, I was employee of the month. The other day, I was getting an accolade. Yeah, and then the other day, when the quarterly reports weren't announced, oh, don't worry. You're getting fired so then they can keep the other person that doesn't look like you. Because that's what happens. They don't care. And then they'll try to tell the other person, "Hey, we had to let people go because of you. So, you need to boost up your performance because we were able to keep you along." That's what's said in the dark. You didn't hear this from me, but we all know their secrets, their lies are all exposed. We get it. The only thing that we can do is ask that the Most High judge. That's it. We can't do anything else. Well, we can vote in. Look, I think our people are starting to realize that reality. Father, we just need your help. We need to be saved. Help us to endure until the end. Help sustain us until the end. Help us to make it until the end. Because again, when these folks on over there, and I'm going to guarantee you what will end up happening is this. They'll probably have and serve like another 6 months, and then they'll literally will have to break it off and return to somewhere because again, they really can't go through a lot of the places that they want to go through. They'll stay there until the end. Until more than likely there's a mutiny. Because the calculus will be, well, I might as well try to save myself and save others while we can be saved. And hopefully we can get a fair trial on UC within the judge advocates. Hopefully we'll be able to, plead our case. Hey, we had documented this and that. We were dying. People were actually being deleted. Medevacs weren't medevacing. People were getting sick. This is real. And I don't have there's no I think the best way to say it, look, it does really it really saddens me to see that because I know and I can understand what our brothers and sisters are going through. I'm pretty sure when they thought that they were leaving, oh, is this a standard deployment? Remember, they've been on the water now for over 9 months. They were there seeing the strikes on Iran. They were there seeing the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. This wasn't the first time that their rations have been cut down. All I know is if they try to say we need to get meat and then they start looking at me, I will find an inflatable vest and I will take my chances with the sharks. I'm just saying, man overboard. Get me a little dinghy and try to go. Let me see how. Let me see. I'll just float with the tide. My, Father, send me that fish like Jonah. 3 days, 3 nights, Father. Spit my behind up somewhere in Somalia. I'll be okay. Y'all act like that's never happened before. Y'all, yeah, they cast lots. Lots fell on you, Jonah. Wait, I didn't see y'all casting lots. Y'all just saw me. I was black. Yeah, that too. See you later. May your Elohim be with you. Yeah, exactly, Sister Fatima. They are starving the sailors. That's horrible. And they're now look, and that take again. That's going to take such an emotional toll. You got to remember, for right now, what those sailors are thinking and what they're saying. If I make it out of this, I'm no, I'm I'm not reenlisting. The officers, if I make it out of this, I'm resigning my commission. I can't do this anymore. If I'm either by retirement age or I just have to resign the commission. This doesn't bode too well for Navy recruiting and things of that nature. Excuse me. Well, here's the thing: they already have human rights lawsuits, but again, that's why they are trying to go after the ICC and the ICJ. It's because of that. Remember, lawlessness. Look, we done said it. Most High was showing that. And again, yeah, I could cover 43 days left of emergency crude buffer. 45-year low. They just reported that yesterday. They're trying to report that. So it's a crude buffer, but what that is that each and every day, they're not able to maintain that buffer. So they may have enough, but then they may drain. And I don't know when and how long that buffer has been, how they're reporting that. I don't think that we'll be, just in my opinion, I don't think that we'll be running out of oil anytime soon. But that is the buffer. So, yeah, shout out to Admiral Halsey. He got out in time. He really did. But it's either he got out or they're going to force him out. So it really didn't matter. That's the conditions that our people are going through right now anyway. So it's a very sad state of affairs. Very, very sad state of affairs. So again, family, thank you for your support of this channel. Thank you for your prayers. This is going to be an interesting 2 weeks for me as I'm in an interesting period. Your prayers are most welcome. I definitely appreciate it. As I have to study for another test to see what my employment fate will be. Test upon test upon test. Most High test, then man test. Oh, but that's what happens. You got to know that's what happens when you get to these different levels. It's not a yay. I made it. Okay. And the thing is, I know, I understand. I was already anticipating it, so I'm not even tripping about it. I just thank the Most High that that He has carried me through these storms. Because when people say, the Most High, there are, you're the one that carries yourself. No, 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 no. There are times I wanted to give up, and I tell people this in the background. There are times I want to give up. Is this worth it? Did I do this? I could have just shut up and not said anything and enjoyed the family that I had, but I opened my mouth. But I opened my mouth because look, I'm sorry, I just we're not able. This is why we are a unique people. We're not able to just see wickedness and not say anything. That's us as Jacob. That's us as Yahudim. And that is why they always want to silence us, silence your voice. Hey, if you're not here, if you're not, let's. And the easiest way to silence us is that, you take away resources. They've already said that. That was it. Well, if you can't afford to actually get on the StreamYard, if he can't afford to actually, have internet, if he's going to be destitute, if we can make him destitute, the problem is they can't make anybody do anything because the only reason that that will happen is if the Most High allows it. And if the Most High allows it, then guess what? Hallelujah. Now, I don't wish that. I wouldn't want to go through that. But sometimes, if the Most High allows it, I'm just praying that, especially in this season, especially with the work that is going to be done. Look, I already know there's a season where right before the work happens, there's a season of destitute. I had that last year. And then we moved the shipping container. Hey, we got to move. Look, the Most High is saying it. Look, and then things move. Look, there are things that's happening in the background. I tell that and explain that to the Q2A folks. There are things moving and happening. I just can't say that here. No. I got people, look, the ops are in here. We get a chance just to be able to get the little flashlight shine to us. Our brothers and sisters on the continent, what are they doing? They're rallying folks. They're mobilizing folks. And that's the blessing. That truly is a blessing. So no, we're not here by ourselves. We're never in the race by ourselves. We're going through life. But here's the thing, we're going through the season. This season is a group sport. It's a group activity. The patience of the saints. He said he's going to do it. He will return his hearts of his people. So what does that mean? That means that the people are going to be going through this judgment too. The judgment of the wicked and the judgment of the righteous. That's it. That's how that goes. Lion Pride, thank you for the gift. Hallelujah. Again, if you'd like to support this channel, Again, this channel is supported by you, and it's a blessing. Whether you want to give super chat, super stickers, thanks. I definitely appreciate it because I want you all to be aware of what is going on during these times, during this season. I don't know how much longer we have, but there is a season coming on up that is going to be very interesting how things are going to move and maneuver. Like I said, we have about a month until they open the UN and then they have the delegates. September is going to be a crazy month. And that's what I wanted to say. And the reason that there has been some chatter. There's been some chatter. Now, not saying that it's going to happen, but there's been chatter about September. Now, the reason, in my most humble opinion, is this. The reason why I believe, just my opinion, you can need to take it with a grain of salt, is because remember back in March, right? The vote, okay? That was the vote. That was just, it wasn't the general delegation with all the heads of state. That's the general delegation. That's in September. This September is the general delegation that have the heads of states for the debates. This is going to be one of the most historical debates ever. And when I tell you, look, people lose their lives over this. So please, please pray for President John Mahama. Especially if you're in the New York area, please have a extra lookout. Because again, in less than 6 weeks, I'm counting the days, about, I'll say 6 to 8 weeks. That's going to be a monumental shift because you already know they're going to introduce some other extraneous measures that these European nations, it's going to be, if you don't agree, then you are going to be excluded. And I got to get going. Thank you again, family, for your gifts and your support. Hallelujah. I gotta get going. So we can cover that next week because again, in the cycle, they won't start talking about that probably for another 2 weeks. It's going to be a 2-week cycle because it's a 2-week cycle. So I would say August, mark my words. So see the calendar, probably like August 27th, they'll start to talk about it right before, Labor Day. Then in Labor Day, it'll intensify and things of that nature. And yes, yeah, Teo is on today. Oh, I was just having to talk about that to another teacher yesterday. My goodness. My goodness. What would you do for higher academics? Would you augment your child? Oh my goodness. It was such an interesting talk. AI, man. AI. That's all I can say. All right, again, thank you again for your prayers, your support. I truly appreciate it, family. Most time willing, I will be back on Monday. I pray that the Most High will give me the favor, the energy to make it to Monday. We serve an awesome Father. We truly do. We truly do. So with that said, family, I do have to go and do my thing. Shaping bright minds. Hallelujah. And with that said, shalom, salama, siyemi, shalom, peace and blessings. Yasharel.